Alright guys, tonight we're gonna read you a bedtime story you've been waiting for a very long time. So, take care of everything you need to do. Get in the bed, pull the covers up to your neck and tuck yourself in. Close your eyes, and I'm gonna whisper a bedtime story to you until you fall asleep. Let's get ready. Okay, this is the story about the keeper of the ticks. Deep inside the tallest godfather clock is the quietest room of the house. There lived a very small gentleman named Barnaby. Barnaby was no taller than a teacup handle. He wore a velvet vest the color of midnight blue, and his silver speckled sat perfectly on the edge of his nose. Barnaby had a very important job. He was the clockmaker for the small creature of the valley. All day long, his tiny workshop echoed with a gentle chorus of sounds: tick-tack, click-chime. He loved his clocks, but lately, Barnaby felt a little bit tired. He wanted more than anything to find a completely quiet place. He wanted to hear the softest sound in the world so his busy mind could finally rest. So, one evening, just as the sun began to dip low the hills and painted the sky in shades of lavender and deep plum, Barnaby packed a tiny velvet blanket into his satchel. He adjusted his speckles, stepped out of the grandfather clock, and set off into the evening air. Barnaby walked through the tall grass of the backyard. To us, the grass is just lawn. To Barnaby, it was a massive emerald forest. The blade of grass swayed gently above his head, making a soft swish, swish sound in the evening breeze. It was much softer than his workshop, but it wasn't the softest sound in the world. Soon, he reached the edge of the garden, where a tiny trickle stream flowed over smooth gray pebbles. The water moved like liquid silk, singing a low, bubbling sound. "Excuse me, little stream," Barnaby whispered, leaning over the bank. "Are you the softest sound in the world?" The stream bubbled gently. "I am soft, Barnaby," the water murmured, "but I am always moving, always rushing, always talking. If you want a sound that is truly soft, you must climb up to the old oak tree and ask the wind." Barnaby nodded. He wrapped his coat a little tighter around himself and walked toward the great ancient oak tree at the edge of the property. The sky was growing darker now, turning a deep velvety indigo. One by one, the first star was blinking away like tiny silver knights in the sky. Barnaby climbed up the mossy root of the oak tree. The moss felt like a thick plush carpet, breathing in his tiny boots. It soaked up the sound of the footsteps completely. flower's branch sat down on a broad green leaf. Above him, a gentle evening breeze drifted through the branches. The leaves brushed against one another, creating a sound like 1,000 secrets being shared at once. Shh, hush, shh. Is this it? Barnaby wondered aloud, closing his eyes. Is this the softest sound? The breeze blew softly against his cheek, carrying the scent of damp earth and night blooming jasmine. I am gentle tonight, little clockmaker. The wind breathes through the leaves, but sometimes I howl and sometimes I roar. I am too unpredictable to be the softest sound. You must look lower down in the mellow meadows where the night flowers bloom. Barnaby let out a long, slow breath. His eyes felt a little heavier now. The cool night air was making him feel wonderfully sleepy. He carefully climbed down the velvety moss of the tree and walked into the quiet meadows. The meadow was completely still. A soft silver mist was rising from the grass, curling around the stream of the wildflowers like a warm, heavy blanket. The bright yellow dandelion and purple clover had already closed their petals for the night, tucking themselves into tight little cups to sleep. Barnaby walked into the center of the meadow. He unrolled his small velvet blanket and laid it down on a bed of soft clover. He lay down on his back and looked up at the moon. The moon was a bright silver crescent, looking very cozy, nestled among the dark clouds. Everything was perfectly still. There was no tick. There was no tack. Barnaby listened as hard as he could. He didn't hear the water. He didn't hear the wind. He didn't hear the silence of the night. But as he lay there completely relaxed, he realized that the silence was empty. It had its own beauty rhythmic sound. Barnaby placed his tiny hand over the velvet vest. Breathed it. He felt the steady calm rise and fall of his own chest, in and out, in and out. It was a slow, perfect timed rhythm, far gentler than any clock he had ever built. He listened to the soft, rhythmic whisper of his own breathing. It sounded like the tiniest waves sliding onto a beach of sand. Hush, hush, hush. This is it, Barnaby whispered to himself, his voice trailing off into a yarn. The softest sound in the world is just the night breathing. It's the sound of resting. The silver mist drifted over his blanket, tucking him in. The moon shone softly down on the meadow, keeping watch. Barnaby's eyes grew so heavy that he couldn't keep them open any longer. He closed his speckles placed them safely in the satchel and let his hand rest by his side. His mind was finally quiet. The gears had stopped spinning. With one last deep and slow breath, the little clockmaker drifted off into a deep, dreamless sleep, perfectly in time with the quiet rhythm of the world. And just like Barnaby, the world was now asleep. Good night. Good night. Good night, everyone.